Today we're going to talk about images and batch messages in regards to holiday messages sent through Atom software. So if you haven't pulled this from the uh, extra information inside of this YouTube video, please make sure that you find it. If you don't have it, you can certainly always reach out to Atom Software. We can send you a link to this Google folder, which has three things in it. One, the little outline. So if you need to take any notes or make any notes about what you're using, or even just remember this again next year when you go to make them, as well as two options that you could, of course, use for your holiday message at any point. Okay, I'm going to move this off. In this outline, the only thing that I highly recommend you do before, I should say things, is one, to watch the video in regards to how to test your messages. It is incredibly important if you are sending it to everyone in your database. You do want to put your best foot forward, make sure that it looks the way you want it to on a phone as opposed to a computer, or an iPhone as opposed to an Android, just to be able to make sure you put your finishing touches on it. Now, I know sometimes when it comes to batch messages, you don't always have that time. So hopefully this video will help you set this up correctly. Now, a few extra things that you do need. Obviously, Atom does not allow you, even though we've supplied you with some examples, to build these images inside of our software. So you do need something like MS Paint. Most offices do have a Microsoft suite, and it's still a part of the suite, and it is free, or any kind of image editor. So maybe you have Photoshop, or maybe you have something else that is going to help you create an image, a flyer, whatever you would like, a newsletter, because this, of course, can apply to any other type of message that comes out of Atom. And we also suggest, because you'll need it, a free media hosting account. Generally something like Imager, Flickr, that is specifically designed for images is going to be what you want so that you have the right link to be able to put it in. The reason why you need this is that if you were just to paste an image inside of a message, chances are very, very good that their email is really just going to show them a wall of code behind that image, not really convert it to the image. And that's not what you want to show your clients. So the first thing that we're going to do is give you a bit of background on how I found my images, if you've gotten any of the messages out of Atom that had one, or how to edit those if you would like to add something a little bit more in terms of messaging when you're going to be closed, or where you'd like them to find certain links, like our Friday online course series. And so if that's an open link, you can post all of that inside of that email when it goes out. The first thing that I usually do is I just use Google. So Happy Thanksgiving free image, when you go to search for it, generally what's going to happen is you're going to get this page. So this is where it normally would land if you're doing something like this with your Google search. You'd have your images on top and then other hits as it goes through on the bottom. I always just flip this so I'm just looking at the image options. You can, of course, narrow this down even further if you would like to. And then you have your choice, right? So what I generally do is I try to look for the ones with names like FreePic or even Pinterest. When you start seeing things like Adobe Stock or Shutterstock, these are typically not free. Usually you would have to purchase this image. So if I double click this, often these are not going to be free. They're buy now. It is going to be very rare that anybody comes after you if you happen to use an image like this. We're very small pickings, but you know, it is definitely, if you're worried about it, you can choose anything that might be on there. And of course, if you have an Adobe account, maybe you can pull this image, go log in, pull this image. Canva, of course, is free. You can certainly grab anything that you would feel comfortable doing from the web, or having a Canva account, free Canva account. Um, Email Monkey. I said it wrong. So any of the other email options that are MailChimp that is out there, you're going to be able to use those images. Now, what I do if this were to pull up and I feel pretty confident about it, especially something like Free Pick, right, is that you hover over it, right click, copy image in this case, and then you can just throw that in Paint. So I pull up Paint, Control V, there's that image. And then you can start using that, manipulating this, or you can just use this. You don't have to put your company name on it. If you see them come from Adam like we do, you absolutely don't have to do this. This is good enough. I'm going to close this out just because we have the other ones up here. So this is how you can source the web, find whatever you'd like. You feel free to, maybe you have an account with something else. You already have things that are paid. Grab something that you love and put that image out there. I'm going to close this out. So what you do, here are the tips and tricks for the ones that you maybe do want to customize. We're going to come back to this one because it's a little bit more advanced only because of the background. So the background doesn't allow you to play as much. So we're going to open this basic. And the reason why this is basic is just because it has a solid background. So it's much easier to fill if you're moving anything around. This is the Microsoft Suite, so a lot of these options should look familiar with Select, right? And if you just hover over them, they're going to tell you what they do. So we could do something like this. It would remove it. It's not going to work that great, but you can resize and skew. You can rotate, crop. So select, crop. Of course, the text editor where you're adding text. So if I grab this guy, you can see that this looks super familiar. We're going to come back to that. We also use the color picker, which is just a little sample vial. And then, of course, this one looks less like a paint can than it used to. I have moved over to the newest Windows, so this changed slightly with that update. But these are the ones we're going to use today. Okay, so when you get this image, again, you could completely leave this if you wanted to. With the text editor, what we do is you want to think about your background and you want to think about the colors that you may want to use. You could certainly just start typing in black, right? But it doesn't really look great. So you can utilize the tools that are in here to pull your colors. So if you grab the sample vial, and you can, of course, use Control and then the wheel to grab the exact color because it is a little tiny that you'd like, and then Control and wheel down. You can see that I almost got back to 100. Now my font is going to be in this cream color, color 1 light yellow. Let's say you wanted to match this to something that was more of your logo colors. Now you can use the advanced color wheel option. And all the colors encoding have an actual map code for it. So if you do have something with your logo and you want to match that, you certainly can just type that in or even use the editor to find the color closest to what you might need. We're going to keep with this cream. So let's say I wanted to do Atom Software, right? You are very familiar here, Ground. You can, of course, choose different fonts if you would like to. Calibri, right? You can choose the size and it'll get bigger or smaller. Generally, let's see, let's do this one so it stands out a little bit. You, of course, have your 4-point compass here, which should look very familiar. And then this is how you kind of move this around. So what I often do when I'm trying to center or make sure that things look the way I want to, there are a couple of other tools that are in here. You're not required to use them. Control G will give you your grid lines so that you can line things up quite easily by looking at your center. And then even more, you can find them in your view. Your rulers, which is Control R, will also give you a bit more options. You can see where this is centered. The middle point, if you make it as close as possible with the boxes before it skews, is always going to be sort of right in the middle. So you can pop that in there. Now let's say that was a mistake and I don't want that. You always have your trusty back button. So I can undo what I just did and get it back to the start. Okay. So in this case, let's just put Atom Software in here. I'm going to get this about where I want it to be. I'm going to go right on that midpoint line there. And here we have it. Now, you might think this is not sort of where you want your final info. Maybe you want to just put our office hours down here, and maybe this is no longer in the middle. You've got a longer gap in between these two. And again, this is very much nitpicking. You absolutely would not have to do this, but you could, of course, grab the rest of it. I can use my mouse. If your hand is not that steady, you can use your up and down arrows to get this in an area where you would prefer it to be. I'm going to actually put this much higher than what you might think it needs, because if you want to add an extra line. Now, this is also where you've got this crazy white line in here. You can use your sampler, grab the exact shade of green, paint can, and fill that back in. It's quite easy, okay? What you see generally on our messages is we're always, if it's a long weekend, going to tell you when we're back in the office. So you can take down the font a bit. You can even choose a different color. So I can choose one of these burnt oranges. Pop that back in there. Got caps locks on. All right. So you can make this look however you would like. Again, get this centered. What I often do is I get it as close as I can. I look at this midpoint and again, get it on the midpoint. We're basically almost there. The other thing that you can do, some people have, and this is overkill, but some people have issues with getting everything centered, is you could kind of throw it on top of the big one. And so that way you know exactly where you want your center point to be. Again, if you change the font, this is going to change your center point. So often I get my font the way I need it first. And this almost matches exactly with Atom Software. And there you have your messaging. If you don't like this, you can zhuzh it up a little bit if you'd like to. Sometimes you will see different things like maybe this cream or sticking with the burnt orange color. You do have your shapes up here. So you can do something as simple as, again, lining it up on the grids. So I've got 2 down and over, and again, 2 down and over on the top, and then coming back down here. So there you've just made it a little different. So Control G to get rid of those grid lines, and then that's the way it's going to look. Let's say this is not stuck in stone either. So again, you could sample slightly a different color. Maybe you do want that cream back in there. The orange is too much. You can grab the slightly different color of the cream and add another line if you perhaps want to. You can even change the line size. So maybe you want this quite thin. And then you have a double shadow box. So it's quite an easy way to get a little bit of customization, even for something that maybe didn't seem like it was that customizable from the internet, but you can get an image that you like, feel comfortable with, and are ready to send out. Now, this one is basic only because it has the easy background. So if you move things around, you could, of course, fill those areas quite easily. So if I save this, we're going to save as. I generally always choose the PNG. So let's do basic Thanksgiving 3, save. We're going to get rid of this one. We already saved it, so don't save. The only reason why this one is a bit more advanced is because there is this very specific spot on here for either the name of your company or any messaging, as well as you can see with a varied background, you cannot do the sample and fill. So you do have to be much more precise with your placement of your messaging if that's something that you want to do. So in this case, if I'm picking the text editor, I know I don't want this in black. I'm immediately going to flip it to white and then come in here to this little section and start adding my company name. Just a little tip, if you've got some sectioning in here, right, and this of course is our name, but it doesn't really go with the flow of what I want it to look like, you can often put in the spaces. So I might space in between, double space in between words, and then just space in between my letters. Come in here, make this as close as possible. I grab my compass point and then I throw it back into where I need it to be. Now, of course, maybe I can't tell, so I might open those grid lines or I might open the rulers. Control G, Control R. There we go. This is the example. I'm not going to spend, too much time worrying about it, and neither do you, as long as you feel okay with the way that it looks. Same thing, you can add your hour messaging down here. Feel free to add whatever you want, of course. And there you go, taking off the grids. And this is why you just need to be a bit more precise before you finalize your messaging on it. Of course, there are multiple things that you could use, so maybe this is too big for what you want. I'm going to select and crop, as well as maybe this is still just too big for what I want in the Atom message. Now, this is where I use the resize and skew, and I always flip it to pixels, and I leave it locked so the aspect ratio stays. So this one isn't too bad. Often I try to keep images, depending on what you're looking at, again, considering that everybody has different monitor sizes or different phone sizes. I usually try to keep something around 700, 800, right? So that it looks okay on both applications. You can make it as small or as big as you want. You still have some skew room with that though, even when we get into the message. So I'll cover that in a second. So we have this. We're going to save it to your computer. I'm going to save as a PNG. Advanced Thanksgiving, we're going to do 3. Okay. So now you have both of your messages, your message options, and now it's a matter of getting it into Imgur. So again, Imgur, IMGUR, you can sign up, get an account, it's free. The login and the password I've saved in our Atom, so anybody can get into this. Of course, if you have a personal account, you could do that too. Now, getting an image in here is just as easy as it is inside of Atom. So I can drag and drop. I can take this Advanced Thanksgiving 3. There it is, right? I can add another image to this same post, even though it's going to be private. I can grab my basic message, and there it is. So one of the things that I did notice maybe a year or two ago is that Imgur did an update. So you'll see here that when you hover over, you can do a copy link or a copy link. For whatever reason, these don't work as well anymore. So the trick that you want to learn about is that you hover over the image just like you did inside of the web, right click and copy image link when you go to put it into an add a message. We're going to show you that all together. But here you have your Imgur posts. These are private, so it's not like anybody else is making a comment on it. But what we're going to do is we're going to then utilize the batch message to send this out to everybody. Now, again, if you have not watched it, you should watch how to test your batch messages. Because some of you, if you don't have a batch message test business type, you'll want to create one. Add some of your users to it. That way you're looking at the message, how it's formatted, doesn't need to go down, did I make a spelling mistake somewhere before it goes off to every single one of your clients. So the first thing that I generally do before I start doing anything is I put it to batch message just in case I have an oops so it doesn't go out to everybody. I know that this is going to be an email. And then I start thinking about my receive dates. Now, my batch message test, I have everybody in an event, and so that I can see this account receive date. So all I have to do is go back to 4/7/2025. We had rolled these guys over earlier in the year, so they all matched up. But if they had varying dates, I would just sort this and then go to the earliest date and use that. Now I give it a message, subject, maybe from Adam Software, right? And what you're using, you could, of course, type any kind of message that you'd like at the top of the image, at the bottom of the image, or you don't even have to have anything. What you're going to be doing is you're going to use this little picture icon, and it's asking for that image URL. So when we come back to Imgur, right click. We don't want to email the image. We don't want to copy the image. We want copy image link. Throw in that URL and hit OK. I'm going to give it a couple more spaces and do the next one. So here's sort of what I was talking about before. After they made this update, if I copy this link, you almost know immediately that it's not going to work, because if I do this and paste this in, nothing appears. So I come back here, copy image link directly on top of the image that I'm viewing. Click my icon, throw in my URL. Now it's appearing. Now, let's say you were doing a double image for whatever reason. Usually you're not, but this is no big deal. This is what I was talking about. You still have time to size these. So let's say I want to match this up and down. If I double click this guy and I can set him, I know I had set him at 700 previously, but I'm just going to do this so it's there. And then I'm going to find out not the width, but the height. So 575. So I can even copy it if I want to. Cancel. Come in here, and then I can make this 575. And now they're exactly the same height. So they're very similar areas that you would have probably seen on other applications that they apply in here too. So it's okay to click around and kind of find your other options with advanced or linked. Same thing inside of Paint. There are different things that you can do, but this is going to give you your message. Now, of course, you could have anything you wanted under here. You could have links, you could have your signature and paste that information in. But when you're ready to go to test, right, double check my dates, double check my business type. Is this an email message? And then I'm hitting send. Only hit it once, and you need to wait for that message sent successfully. Now, I only sent this to 5 people. If you are sending this to thousands of people, it's probably going to take a little longer than what that green message came up with. So you just want to sit and wait for it to end. When I hit my sent, you can see, and again, I've had other tests here, but you're going to see your test at the top. You're going to immediately know if this is zero, that maybe something is wrong in there. And it's probably just these dates. Because again, this would have been who has walked through your door from which date to which date in terms of you creating an Atom account file for them. And then by the dates, that's how Atom decides who gets the message. So most of the people, when you get ready, and if this looks great, everybody tested it. When you get ready to send this out, for most offices, your setup is going to be this: one, one, and however far back you might want to go. So let's say we want January of 2024, that so you're going back 2 years instead of one, but you want to grab 2 years of people. Maybe it's just 1 year. So if you did 1/1/2025, that's the calendar date of anybody who had walked through your door from January of 25 until today. And they're the ones who are getting this message. That's why sometimes you'll see 1 year back here, just in case someone didn't come in. And of course, you'd still want to wish them a happy holiday. You flip this to whatever account year, business type you want to grab your email, and then you move this message through again. You could go so far as, if you had more things written out, sometimes I will open this message. Control A is going to give you everything. So that is usually not what you want. But you can sort of put your cursor on the bottom, left click, and then get this. So the body of your message. Control C is a copy. Come in here. Control V is a paste. And so it did paste in the image link that came with that first message. And then you can send that message off. Tailor it, send it, you'll be happy. So the batch messages are instantaneous. It will go out the minute you send it. So you may want to think about that if you happen to be working on this quite early in the morning, but you can do that and shoot it out whenever you'd like. And that is all we have for how easy that is once you get a few things already settled. But again, it isn't as difficult as you may think to get these, nor do you have to pay an arm and a leg for a media professional to create them for you. And you certainly do not have to brand them if you don't want to. Your clients would be just as happy, with a great little happy Thanksgiving image. If you have any questions, please always reach out to Atom Support. We're here to help. I hope you have a great holiday.